Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everybody? Happy September. It's back to business after an incredible Labor Day weekend here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Welcome to the program, Andrew Paterson. Michael Remis is back today, and we've got lots to talk about coming out of a victorious trip for Bomber fans and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to Regina, winning an absolute thriller. Truly a classic, 35-33. In the biggest game of the regular season at Mosaic Stadium on Sunday. Listen, we're going to talk a lot about the game. I just first off want to shout out all of the Bomber fans that made the trip to Regina. What an incredible turnout of blue and gold in the Queen City on the weekend. The little game before pre-party that the Bombers always put on, buying every Bomber fan a drink down at Crave, was insane. For the first time ever, they took over the entire restaurant, and there was still nowhere to move. And then all the blue in the stadium at Wayne's World beforehand the game. It was a magical weekend and day, and obviously the game worked out for everyone that had made the trip, with the Bombers getting the big win. A special thanks to our crew, the 1930 crew, Jeffrey Bannon and Pat Rathwell and Tara Maslowski and Dave Patrician, Carter, Darren and Zach. We had an absolutely amazing time, and I love the fact that we had a whole bunch of WSTers on the trip as well. Certainly does give me thoughts about potentially doing a hockey version of that at some point. And I'll tell you right now, make plans to be at the Labor Day Classic next year, whether you're going to go on one of the bus tours, whether you're going to drive. There's just nothing like it, and it delivered in spades. The rivalry's never been better, and this matchup with the two teams in a battle for first place absolutely delivered. And while I know there's a few people licking wounds yesterday, everyone had a smile on their face because we were coming back to Manitoba with the Bombers in first in the CFL West, which is where they sit today, heading into the rematch on the weekend with the biggest game of the season here in Winnipeg, the annual Banjo Bowl. So we're going to get to all of this, but just first off, I wanted to shout out everyone that joined us. Man, we had an absolute blast. We're going to bring Remis in here, check out what he's been up to, and get going with a full recap of the game. We'll hear from a number of individuals from the Bombers side of things, including head coach Mike O'Shea. We've got lots to talk about in CFL 110 coming up tomorrow. Jeff Hamilton's going to join us today, and we'll really focus in on the Bombers and Riders. But make sure to join us tomorrow for CFL 110. Of course, it's brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Also want to thank the great folks over at Coolbet. Dusty and I just got into the lock shop. This is a big week for the lock shop, NFL Week 1. And by the way, yours truly, 4-0 against the spread this week. Shout out to the Bombers and the Elks for helping me cash a couple tickets. So we're getting hot coming into NFL season. So you can join us noon Winnipeg time, right before Winnipeg Sports Talk over on the EST channel. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Canadian Club, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Rollies Transfer, Consolidated Supply, Manitoba Battery, Little Brown Jug, along with Royal Sports and Boston Pizza. Good luck to the Winnipeg Goldeyes. We'll talk about that in a minute. They are in the playoffs and at home on Friday. Aikens Lake, Assiniboia Downs, and of course our friends at Breezy Bend. And we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. All right, let's get this show on the road. Welcome to everybody in chat. And welcome back to Michael Remis, who's here. What's going on?
Hey, I'm back. I remember how to do this. Pumped to be here. It was sad I was missing some great lead up to the Labor Day Classic. I know you had plenty of great discussion about Rutgers' first comments as a Pittsburgh Penguin.
What a press conference.
I was wishing that I was on the show for that, but I had some nice time off. Went to the beach with my family, although we had to go home early because my almost 2-year-old daughter puked on me several times. So we're like, all right, let's go home. So
that's pretty close to what happened in Regina at the Labor Day game.
Yeah, lost.
No,
pretty
I did not see anyone. I did not see anyone lose it on any other fellow fans. But that's good. Listen, you've been working like crazy. It was good for you to get away for part of August. And now, man, I mean, we come out of this weekend, most anticipated home game week of the year for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And for all of us that love football, both north and south of the border, Remo, we are 48 hours and change away from a banner going up at Arrowhead Stadium and NFL kickoff between the Chiefs and the Ravens. And then we've got a primetime game on Friday from Brazil, two of the top teams in the NFC going into the season, the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Saturday is the Banjo Bowl. Sunday is week 1 of NFL football. And on top of it all, we're going to have some Goldeyes playoff baseball here. We'll talk to Andrew Collier about this later on, but huge tip of the cap to the entire team, led by, of course, Logan, who did such a great job putting that team together. I mean, the pitching was incredible. The hitting came around. The Goldeyes won, and, they actually picked. This is the strange thing. I'll ask Andrew Collier about this. With the American Association format, the first place team gets to pick their opponent. And they actually picked the second place team, which is very interesting. We'll find out why or how they came to that later on. What you need to know, though, is that they're going to be down in Sioux Falls on Wednesday for game 1 of the series. Then they come back to Winnipeg, Blue Cross Park, Friday night for game 2. It is a best of 3. If there is a third game, the Goldeyes will have the home field. And that will be Saturday night, 6:30 p.m., potentially an incredible doubleheader, if you will, starting off at Princess Auto Stadium with Bombers Riders, finishing up with the third and deciding game for the Fish and the Sioux Falls Canaries. So we got quite a week to dive into, and then it won't be long before the boys of winter are back, and we're starting talking about Winnipeg Jet training camp, which I think is going to be one of the more interesting camps that we've had in a long time, particularly considering a brand new coaching staff, as well as some young players who are going to be coming to camp feeling like they've got an opportunity to crack the lineup.
Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar as it flips over to September. Summer's over. I'm wearing shorts now, enjoying the last remaining days that I can. Young Stars in Penticton starts Friday, September 13th. Ooh, Friday the 13th. They're going over there. Sure, they'll come in that week. Get ready. We'll get our first look at Braden Yager in a Jets jersey, the newest prospect, newest acquisition. And if you missed it over the weekend, Connor Rabchek and Liz Hood did a fantastic job with their deep dive, in-depth scouting report on Braden. Yeah, man, he's a really hot item. Your interview with him, nearly 10K views on our YouTube. And
nice.
You and Ken did the reaction video I posted. That got like 5K. And this deep dive, check it out, closing in on 3,000 views. So a lot of interest in this player. We'll get a look at him at Young Stars. So a lot of excitement for sure. I almost forgot about the new coaching staff as well. Scott Arneal behind the bench, changing some assistants as well. So really, really exciting month here as, yes, Goldeyes in the playoffs, Banjo Bowl, Bombers in first after the 0-4 start. And the hockey season here in NFL this week. I forgot what that Friday game in Brazil?
Yeah, Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Yes, so exciting
They've
stuff. We got
plenty of quality security for both the Packers and the Eagles and everybody involved in the game. I saw Darius Slay of the Eagles talking about going down there, and let's just say they weren't too fired up about it. They are just going to be in their hotel the entire time, get to the stadium, play the game, and then try and get out unscathed. And they said, families, please do not travel to Brazil. They won't be available, and we'll go in there. But as I said, that's going to be a great night. We'll pay attention to that game, maybe on the phones while we're down at the ballpark on Friday night. But I'm just looking in chat. I'm seeing a whole bunch of great comments about the weekend. I see Son of Dork, who actually was the winner of that trip from the Coolbet contest. It was great to see him going in. But overall, and there's Pat Rathwell. Pat, today I am dragging my bleep around. I wonder why. Pat did an unbelievable job of leading the charge amongst the organizers for the tour. And as I said, the hospitality, everyone just had such an amazing time. So I cannot wait to do that again. And I always say this, and I heard this many times, Remis, before I actually went the first time. And I don't know, like 08, 09, something like that. You got to get out and experience what the Labor Day Classic is all about. And it is still going strong, maybe even better than ever. I mean, the atmosphere in and around the stadium heading in on Saturday or on Sunday was phenomenal. And I mean, it really was a fun atmosphere throughout it. I mean, some fun-natured bars between Bombers and Rider fans. I'm sure everyone has seen, there was one skirmish, shall we say, in the stands that was put up on video and making news around social media. Someone asked me if I threw any. No, of course, I would never. That is the most amateur hour behavior, fighting other people at sporting events. And to be honest, I was a little surprised at that because my interactions, and I think I can speak for everybody that was with our group, was nothing but incredibly positive. We had a lot of fun with the Rider fans, and that is what this weekend is all about. Whether it was out in the bars at night, whether it was pregame and before the game, in and around the stadium or in the stadium. I think everyone realizes, like, having the Bomber fans at the game makes it that much better in Saskatchewan, much like being good hosts and welcoming people in green for the Banjo Bowl cranks that up to another level. So, shame on anyone that was throwing them at it, and I'm sure they will be dealt with. Probably not very proud of themselves afterwards. And again, I just saw the clip too. I have no idea how it started it. I'm not going to point fingers at anyone. Often there's usually one idiot that starts this and drags a bunch of other people into it. But that was a very isolated incident from my perspective. Otherwise, it was just all fun. And as I said off the air, Remo, we have to find a way to get you to start working on booking off Labor Day weekend next year. Connor as well. It would be great to get you guys there to be a part of what is just such a special event and atmosphere that is so truly CFL. And I'll say truly CFL, it's truly Prairie CFL, because there is nothing like it. And with all due respect to Calgary and Edmonton, and I know they've got a great rivalry for the Labor Day game in Hamilton, a big win for the Ticats yesterday. The Bomber-Rider rivalry is the best in the Canadian Football League. There is no question about it. And if you want an example of it, get your ass to Regina for the Labor Day game and have a good time. I said to Wade Miller, talking about the event, that if you can't have fun at the Labor Day Classic in Regina, you better check your pulse, and I think everyone did so far. So on to the Banjo Bowl now, which should be an incredible weekend here in the Peg.
Yeah, I think the last couple of years of the rivalry has been really one-sided. And, the Roughriders, they've had some tough seasons. They've changed coaching staffs. They've, shuffled around front office, gone through quarterbacks. But this year was different for them. They got off to such a great start to the season. We're in first place. No longer in first place. They're behind, 1 point behind the Bombers. And I think there was a lot of optimism for Rough Rider fans, a lot of optimism for Bomber fans after an 0-4 start. So you had two really even teams. And they went to overtime in the first matchup. You knew it was going to be a close game that went down to the wire. And boy, did it ever with the 60-yard field goal going just short. I don't know how it looked like for you, but on TV, it looked like it was going through. And then I was like, there's no way he's making a 60-yarder here after the troubles that they've had kicking this season. And there you saw Lucky Whitehead well in front of the goalpost with his arm raised, catching the ball to put an end to what was a fantastic game and a real nail-biter there for Bomber fans. And yeah,
we
great
had to win
rivalry.
the game like three times.
Sorry?
We had to win the game like 3 different times.
Oh, man.
In the last 3 minutes. I mean, it was stressful. But yeah, as far as that field goal goes, I mean, we were in the upper bowl on the, I guess, the sun side. I'm not sure what the directions were. But like the funny thing was, after the PI call, they were actually spotting the football about 12 or 13 yards further. And I'm quickly doing the math and I'm going, oh my God, this is only going to be like a 48, 49 yarder. And then I'm not sure what the mistake was, or they kind of figured it out. Then they moved it back to basically close to midfield. I think it was about the 53. So, the 7 yards, snapping the ball back thereabouts, it ended up being a 60-yarder. And, he got it up, he hit it well, but I wasn't expecting him to make it. The only guy that you can expect to make 60-yarders when you roll him out is Sergio Castillo, who did it. And, the kicking game, Reem, was such a huge part of the game on Sunday. And I know there was a lot of talk about the Rouge, with the walk-off Rouge the week before. No one seemed to be talking about the Rouge this week, when the Rouge the Bombers got was a massive, massive point, which allowed them with the field goal to get to be up 8, to force the Riders to go for 2 points, which they were unsuccessful. At that point, thought the Bombers had won. Obviously, the onside kick was recovered. They got another opportunity. But when you think about, Lawther was good in that game, but, missing the 60-yarder, Sergio being 2 for 2 from 52 and 56. And to be honest, the play of the game had to be Jamison Sheehan's punt. And I mean, the way he put that thing into the corner, sort of wobbly on an angle, obviously, I mean, he's got so many different kinds of kicks. He pulled that one out thinking it was going to be a coffin corner, got a weird bounce, managed to have it touched by the returner. Next thing you know, the Bombers are on it in the end zone. And, in such a close game between two very evenly matched teams, we talk about the turnover differential and those big plays. That, to me, was the play that ended up being the difference, because, of course, the Bomber offense was nowhere close to what it was in the first half after Zach Collier had been knocked out of the game on a very sketchy hit, which was flagged for illegal, for a rough play on the quarterback.
Yeah, a couple of things there. One, I love the Rouge. I didn't get in on the discussion with you and Jeff. I love how the CFL has different rules than the NFL, and you're going to have it once in a while where a game ends on a walk-off Rouge on a missed field goal. That's just what it is, and I have no issues with that. And you said the play. There were a number of plays you could say that were the play of the game. I thought the Lucky Whitehead punt return, on the final drive, leading up to that 56-yard field goal, for me, massive play. And that was the longest punt return they've had all season, which it wasn't even that long, was like 30 yards or so. And, signing Lucky was, I think, was a big move for them. You gave them, he was good receiving when called upon. When they had injuries, Waltarski came back. But that punt return put them in big range. The offense wasn't moving at all, and they did get a big play as well by Nick Dembski to set up that 56-yarder at the end, where, Streveler wasn't called to pass on a lot, but 4 for 6 or 46 yards, average, length of completion there isn't too shabby. On the one play, the Evan Holm interception that had the PI, I mean, I watched that replay. They only showed it like once or twice. It almost looked like offensive PI. The defender was just standing there, and the receiver ran into him, and the receiver fell down, and they called it a PI. But it was interesting that, the clock still runs on a penalty. And if he had taken it back to the house, like, the time would have ran out, but he went down because you think that the game was over. And they only had 3 seconds after that. So if he doesn't, even because it was a penalty, or, even, so what?
Oh, that's a good point.
If he just blocks it, maybe they have time to get one more play. But, we're kind of helped by the penalty there. And there wasn't enough time. They had to go for the 60-yarder. But, it was certainly a back-and-forth game. You mentioned the Collier hit. I thought it was kind of a BS hit. It was certainly late. The lineman is shouldering him in the jaw. Sounds, Jeff's going to have more info when he comes on. It sounds like he's going to be okay, and it was very precautionary. The other player who left the game, Adam Bighill, sounds like he's going to be out more long-term. And, I'll give credit to you mentioned your conversation with Wade Miller. Credit to him calling out Randy Ambrosie. It's kind of funny. You and Jeff have talked in the past if CFL was like WWE. Wade Miller is like the manager calling out the commissioner, saying, "Hey, you need to protect." And it is BS. I mean, the same game, Labor Day Classic, 2 years in a row. Collier is taking these bad hits to the head, and he has to leave. I thought that was certainly questionable. It was flagged. Maybe you'd like to see an ejection there. They did get a pass interference flag on that as well, where they scored a touchdown.
Yeah. They ended up benefiting. No benefit from it whatsoever because the PI had it down on the one anyways. That additional, I mean, when you do have a personal foul on the play, that will also be tacked on. There was no more room for it to be tacked on. But listen, the Bombers got the touchdown, which obviously was huge. But then in the second half, it was time for Chris Streveler to make it happen. And think about that. Streveler, in an entire half of football, only threw the ball 6 times. 4 times successfully. And, I mean, with the lead that the Bombers had coming out of the first half, especially knowing what we know now, I do sort of wonder, would it have been different if the game was tied? Was Zach still in? With Zach Collaros' history of injury, you really need to think about the player first, and I'll give the Bombers a lot of credit in doing that. And just hopefully he's good to go for good to go for the Banjo Bowl, because I mean the one thing coming out of last week, Remis, was okay, what are we going to get from Zach? Because he'd had an underwhelming season so far. The numbers are nowhere close to what they had been in the past, and of course, he really struggled in the second half last week against the Chris Jones Ticats defense. And I think there was wondered, you're going into Saskatchewan, a very tough place to play against a great defense in their part. What were we going to see? Well, the best takeaway from the game was that Zach Collaros was dialed in that first half, going well over 200 yards in the first half. And, putting the Bombers up to a very comfortable lead when you combine with that incredibly huge special teams play. The team is up by a couple touchdowns in a good spot right now. But I thought Zach's response to an uncharacteristically tough night for him, despite the win against Hamilton, was massive for the game. And I think really important for him and the offense as we move back here to Winnipeg for the Banjo Bowl at Princess Auto Stadium. And the final 6 games of this regular season, now at 6-6 after being 0-4 and 2-6.
Yeah, I thought, look, he got injured, he had to leave, and they had a lead, and they said, you know what, we're just going to hang on. And I do agree that if the game was different, they probably would have opened it up, but they knew they could run the ball, run the clock out, throw a little, short passes when they needed to with Streveler. We haven't really seen him throw much. A lot of running plays. We saw when they won, it was him and Oliveira. But Oliveira, he didn't have a great game on the ground as well, but they were able to gut out this win. Maybe you would have liked to see less of a your heart rate increase at the end with them failing to recover the onside kick. But hey, you win over your rival 35-33. I do agree. I mean, I think Collaros was on his way to a very strong game. Could have had over 300 yards, maybe multiple touchdown passes. But you know what? You'll take the 2 points and you'll move on. And you're at home here Saturday, so I think a lot of positives. But I guess the watch this week as you get ready for the Banjo Bowl is going to be injury status. Stanley Bryant. It sounds like, they thought he was going to play last game. Just wasn't well enough after being carted off the game before. I think he might be a candidate to play, and I think Jeff will have the more information, but it sounds like they're more optimistic on him. But hey, you never know how these things go, with headshots. So
and some big concern about Biggie.
Yeah,
I mean, in a Labor Day Classic, in the second half, or I believe maybe it was even the fourth quarter, for Adam Bighill to leave the game and to have to be helped by 2 individuals tells you all you need to know about, the status of where he was at, because that guy will do anything he can to stay on the football field. I really don't know the nature of the injury. We know that he had the quad issue before. You just hope that Big Hill will be able to get back at some point. I mean, I'd imagine we'll get some clarity, at some point this week from the Bombers. But as Jeff said, it's good news on Zach. They're worried about Adam Big Hill. But listen, Big Hill had been missing some time earlier on this season. The defense had been playing really, really well. And, they had to come up big in some big, big moments on Sunday to get the win. And as I said, it's still just insane to say this, but the Bombers are in first place, Remis, after this season we've had. They got it up to 500, and that's good for number one because, and again, we'll really focus on this on CFL 110. BC woke up and had a massive win. The Bombers got the job done. The Elks got the job done yesterday, and now 6 wins in first, 4 wins in fifth. This is the closest I think the CFL West has been probably in 20 years, 2/3 of the way into the season.
Yeah, it's awesome. You don't know who's going to win each week. I made my picks this past week. Did not go well. I mean, Hamilton upsetting Toronto. Didn't see that. Edmonton, they've been on a tear. Calgary's really taken a step back. And Nathan Rourke, he knew it was coming at home. Touchdown, Touchdown Pacific in Victoria, his hometown. Putting on a clinic there. You knew he had that in him. You knew it was coming. There's still questions, I think, about their defense in BC, but I didn't have a lot of questions about the quarterback. And there you have it at the West Division. Bombers 6-6, BC 6-6, and Saskatchewan right behind 5-6-1 with their third and final game of the season against the Bombers, so they could leapfrog. They do have that tie, which will come in handy as they jockey down the stretch. But I mean, the standings are what they are now, and the Bombers, they said, hey, what's it like being in first after being 0-4? And they say they're taking it one game. It has to feel nice, but they are taking it one game at a time. But you also know that it could change at any time. And Edmonton, again, they're still surging. They're right behind. It is pretty crazy what's happening, but the idea that you could have a home playoff game here seemed very remote at an 0-4, and now you're right in there with just everyone else. You have to feel good about clawing your way back to 6-6 after starting 0-4. And I mean, the reaction from the chat room now much different than it was a month into the season. It's pretty
the
crazy.
Bombers are back. Everyone's back. Listen, I think everyone knew that this was going to be a different sort of season. I mean, the Bombers weren't going to be running away with anything with the players that they lost. The offense has struggled more than I think people expected at particular times, although they looked great in the first half when they really needed to on the weekend. And the defense has been so good. They're probably where they should be right now. And frankly, everybody else in the division are where they should be right now, which is right in the thick of things with every single team having on. Just before we get to some clips, here's the way the schedule plays out for the next few weeks. BC's in Montreal on Friday. Very difficult game. The Bombers, of course, have the Riders back here in Winnipeg, and the Elks have the Stamps in Edmonton. Only BC plays the next week of those teams. BC's at home to Toronto. Calgary, I should say, is home to Montreal. Week 16 begins the home-and-home with the Bombers and the Elks. Saskatchewan is at Calgary, and BC's off. Following week, Edmonton is back here in Winnipeg for that Friday night game. BC hosts Hamilton. Saskatchewan hosts Ottawa, and the Stamps are off. Week 18, Bombers go to Hamilton. Calgary's at BC. Saskatchewan plays Edmonton. That'll be a huge game. And then week 19, and what's very strange is the Bombers finished their season with 3 straight against the East. Bombers get the Argos. Meanwhile, Edmonton's at Calgary and BC's at Sask. Bye next week for Winnipeg. Montreal does play at home to Montreal's in BC. So BC's got 2 more games against Montreal. Calgary's in Hamilton. And then the final week of the regular season, the Bombers go to Montreal. Very good chance that the Alouettes will be resting guys, having clinched first place already at that point. Elks are hosting Toronto. And Calgary and Saskatchewan, final game of the CFL regular season. could absolutely. I would be shocked, in fact, if it didn't have major playoff implications for one, if not both teams. So a lot of work left to do, but the Bombers have battled back and are now where they hope to be at the beginning of the season. That's in first place, controlling their own destiny, hosting the Riders in the Banjo Bowl on the weekend. Just kind of going through that schedule. A great time to tee up CFL 110 tomorrow. Make sure to join us right here on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube channel, where myself and Jeff Hamilton will go through our weekly trip around the Canadian Football League. Of course, it's brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg, who've had an amazing summer transforming dozens of garages in and around the city. The push is on, though. If you want to have a clean, organized garage to make the most of your winter before the snow flies, give Pat Garage Living a call at 204-999-1234. They're gearing up for a busy fall as the push is on to get clients booked. Garages designed and installations complete before winter, allowing you to clear the clutter, organize, and beautify your garage with polyaspartic floor coating, made in Canada premium metal cabinetry, slat wall storage solutions, and even an opportunity to put a lift in so you can be working on that car, your sled, and the comfort and warmth of your beautiful garage, as opposed to your other options. Check out their website at garageliving.com. All their amazing work is there. And give our friend Pat Kanuga a call. He's loving his move from early morning radio guy to garage designer. Pat is at 204-999-1234. He'll hook you up with a free in-garage consultation, or you can pop by and meet him at their showroom at 981 Main Street. Garage Living Winnipeg. Garages made for a living. Well, as we get into September, if you've got a move coming up, our friends at Roley's Transfer are ready to help you out and give you the white glove treatment and take as much stress out of the moving experience as possible. And no better people to do that as Roley's Transfer, family owned and operated for over 60 years right here in Winnipeg, as the most trusted name in moving in the city and the province. Of course, they're all over the province on a daily basis with their logistics business, which means flexible routes, timing, and of course, great rates. And speaking of those great rates, if you go to Roley's.com right now, top right corner, you'll see request an estimate. Put in the promo code WST because our friends at Roley's have a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for WSTers. Stick in when and where you're moving, what you're moving. You can even upload photos of furniture and whatnot. They'll turn it around with a great estimate for you, get you booked in, and get you moving with the white glove treatment from the most trusted name in moving, Roley's Transfer. Find out more. Request an estimate today at Roley's.com. What a summer it's been for our friends at Consolidated Supply. But of course, the work keeps going as the leaders in irrigation systems and solutions, artificial turf, golf carts, not just for the golf course, but many amazing club car vehicles that have great industrial use as well, manufacturing, work sites, and more. They can help you out with all of that. And of course, other great options for your property. You're going to be spending a bit more time at home, like hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchen options. And of course, they're the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see Consolidated Supply at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. And for many of you, after a little bit of time off, it's back to work. Well, whether you're working or playing, you got to have power, and our friends at Manitoba Battery are the local option and resource for the biggest and best selection of batteries for literally anything. All of the best prices in town, beating the pants off the big box stores. That's right. Whether you're popping down to the original location on Logan Avenue, the new Manitoba Battery on Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city, or giving them a call or ordering online, you will get the best prices in town, beating the pants off the big box stores with the best service as well from Donnie and his great staff. They will deliver those batteries to you. You're on a work site, you need a couple batteries, they can probably take it to you there as well. You can give them a phone call or order online at manitobabattery.com. Any purchase over $60, they'll deliver it to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg. It's just that easy. For all your battery needs, shop local. Get the best deals in town at Manitoba Battery. manitobabattery.com. All right, Reem, let's Let's dive into a little bit of the fallout of the Labor Day Classic before we bring in Jeff Hamilton and hear from head coach Mike O'Shea. As I said, it truly was a classic, back and forth game with a crazy finish. Here's what Mike O'Shea had to say about a very productive but kind of nail-biting 3 hours in Regina.
Well, right down the wire. Good for the fans, good for the league. I'm sure there was a pretty big, probably TV audience too, so lots of excitement. I'm sure both teams want to play better.
Just going through your mind in those last 2.5, 3 minutes of the game, where it was back and forth, opportunities, looked like you had it, and it looked like you might have not. It was down to the front.
Yeah, just, it was quite a distance, right? And it's a hard kick for anybody, especially into the wind. So, it gave us a chance. But, I think we just got to clean up a bunch of things prior to that, they play tough football. So we got to play tough football too, and we got to maintain our focus during that.
How does it feel to be first place in the West after, a slow start?
I don't know. There's still lots of season left. Let's just keep chugging along, sticking to our process.
Stick to the process. 1-0 this week. Looking to go 1-0 next week. There's Coach O'Shea. First of all, you know what? There are a lot of people were talking about Reem, and I know Hammer made a tweet about this. Osh rocking the backwards hat. Looking like Mike Miller on the sidelines yesterday. And by the way, I'd love to cop that hat. I like the mesh backs. I'm not sure what's on the front of that hat. It's obviously a Bomber hat, but it looked good. And he was channeling a little Mike Miller, who usually has the backwards hat as well. But in all seriousness, though, mentioning that last play, it was somewhat into the wind. It was a 60-yarder. They did have a great, I think they felt good about their chances of escaping. What I know they'll be working on, speaking of Mike Miller and special teams practice, is maybe the onside kick return team. I'm not sure Willie J. We love Willie. I'm not sure Willie's in that spot next week because I think he was out there because he's 6'7". If you're 6'7", you need to jump up, high point the ball, and either catch it or get it out of bounds. He sort of waited for it to come down and allowed the Saskatchewan guy to jump up. Credit to Saskatchewan for executing it well. But I do think if the Bombers are in a similar situation, we might see a different formation or personnel out there.
Yeah, I thought it was a really well-executed onside kick. He kicked it, the 10 yards. He got it over the first level, had a lot of hang time and backspin. Yeah, and I think, Willie J, he's a tall guy. I don't know how much they practice onside kicks. He was kind of on an island back there, and didn't really jump up for the ball, and the defender came bowling through. I thought it was really well executed by Saskatchewan. Maybe the Bombers like to clean.
Give me Kenny Lawler there next time. And again, love Willie. The guy is so important to this football team. And if there's a ball up for grabs, let's get the guy with the best hands in the Canadian Football League that can jump up there and get that ball.
That was the one thing too. I was like, well, does Willie have experience catching the ball? He's, it's if it's a sack thing where, I don't know if they change the rules for onside kick where you have to sack a guy. Then I'm putting Willie in, but it's for jumping up and catching. And, Kenny Lawler, he's a pretty tall guy too. You probably have some guys. Maybe they practice it. I don't know, but it didn't go well. And it looked very easy for Saskatchewan. I'm sure they'll look at that and reevaluate for future opportunities.
Let's hear a little bit more of O'Shea. And listen, we found out it was like a bit of a bummer, to be honest with you. We just pulled out of the Princess Auto Stadium parking lot to turn on to Pembina to get to the perimeter on our way to Regina. And Bombing says, did you see Hammer's tweet? I'm like, no. Stanley Bryant's not playing. Oh, are you kidding? I was really concerned about the effect of no Bryant for that entire game. And, listen, the guys that have been pushed into duty, they got the job done. It wasn't a crazy rushing attack for the Bombers, but, listen, Zach Colleros' numbers speak for themselves in the first half. So, they had the changes to the O-line. Then they lose Zach Colleros for the second half. Adam Bighill's out. O'Shea, just kind of talked about dealing with, injuries to two of your most important players, as well as a shuffled up offensive line with no Stanley Bryant.
Yeah, I thought I thought Buck and the staff did a great job. I thought all the players did a great job. Strevy went in there and did what he needed to do to get us into put some drives together and chew up some yards. And I really like that. I guess it was a punt return at the end that. Kick return or punt return? Anyway, lucky got us great field position, right? We get a first down or get some yardage and put Sergio out there for 57 or something like that to make it 8. Still always plays you want to have back. But you know what? Trust me, we're not going to complain about this one. We're going to enjoy this night and then get back to work.
Can you tell us about Zach? He was obviously on that sideline supporting his teammates, but didn't get to play that second half after that hit.
Yeah, precautionary too. Yeah. I mean, the guy shouldered him in the jaw late, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
All right, so there's O'Shea, obviously not too impressed with the Miles Brown hit that knocked Zach Collaros out, although said it was precautionary, which is great news. And he's not in any concussion protocol or anything like that. So, as I said, we'll get Hammer on in about 10 minutes or so, and he can fill us in on all of that. But it does look like being positive for Zach, although not so much for Adam Bighill. Listen, O'Shea wasn't raising any banners, very businesslike, but did talk about being in first place right now in the West after starting this season 0-4 and being 2-6 just a month ago.
We're certainly playing better. We're showing up on a daily basis, more focused. The young guys have come along very nicely. Our vets have cleaned up the stuff they needed to clean up too, and it's starting to become a team and starting to understand three-phase football. So it is looking better. Still, two men in there. They show up and they're happy, but they're all committed to coming in tomorrow and being better.
Mike, what would you make of your revamped O-line? Looked like the quarterbacks had a lot of time to operate.
Yeah, once again, I think Buck and Buck puts together a real nice plan. Marty's got the guys tuned up. Once again, if they're in our building, they can play for us. They just got to get an opportunity. So right now, a bunch of guys are getting opportunities. Yeah, I thought they did well. They probably, once again, from the sideline, I'm not the guy to talk about O-line, but I certainly felt like a pretty decent game.
All right, so there's a little bit more Coach O'Shea post-game in Regina after the big win in the Labor Day Classic. Now, and Jeff will kind of tell us about this conversation when he joins us. Wade Miller was livid at the hit on Zach Collaros, and as Michael Remis just mentioned, 2 consecutive years. A very questionable hit has knocked Zach Collaros out of the LDC. Hammer asked O'Shea about Zach taking another questionable hit in the game on Sunday and being knocked out of the game.
How frustrating was it to see Zach take a hit like that? That's 2 Labor Days in a row where he's taking a high hit. It's obviously been an issue across the league protecting quarterbacks. Same guy was the guy that knocked out 2 Brown. It's how frustrating as a head coach to lose a guy on such an unnecessary play.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, Zach is. We consider him the best quarterback in the league, especially in clutch situations. He's dynamite. So to lose him is tough. But in terms of penalties and how things are managed from the league, I cannot comment. I will not comment on it.
Was he out for concussion protocol, or did the doctors?
No. Just the right thing to do is to keep him out.
So that's interesting. I mean, again, no concussion protocol. It was the right thing to do. Thinking of the player first, which I certainly respect. I do wonder if that would have been different if the team was down 7 points or 3 points. Because certainly the way the Bombers called the offense, they were looking, okay, we've got a great defense. We've got a lead. Let's go hold it. And they certainly look very different in the second half than they did offensively, with Zach having a hell of a first 30 minutes in that game. let's. This has obviously been a big topic. We heard what Wade had to say. Mike O'Shea didn't really want to go there afterwards, but you could tell he was very frustrated. Why not question of the day for all of you in the chat for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray? Should Brown have been kicked out of the game on Sunday? Or, considering that he wasn't, should there be supplemental discipline and potentially a suspension for the Banjo Bowl? Let us know in the chat on what you think on that. Now, I'm looking at the time keys, and I'm not at all surprised that this is going to be Mike O'Shea's shortest answer. But here's a question from Jeff asking O'Shea about tying Bud Grant for most wins as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber head coach at 102.
Congrats on tying Bud Grant's all-time record.
Yeah. My name should never be mentioned with Bud Grant. He's one of the best ever. So.
Yeah, well, Mike, I'll just inform you, you, my friend, are one of the best ever, too. And with a win in the Banjo Bowl, and I've kind of been talking about this for about 3 weeks, that this could happen if like the Bombers had to beat Hamilton. They almost didn't, but they did. I mean, the big tough one was on the weekend in Regina. Well, they got that done. And now it sets up the stage. And I know Mike O'Shea doesn't want to hear it or doesn't want to talk about it, but Mike O'Shea can become the winningest Bomber head coach in the history of the franchise with 103 wins on Saturday in front of a packed stadium without a single available ticket, blue and green, the craziest atmosphere of the season for sure. I can't think of a better way for Mike O'Shea to etch his name in Winnipeg Blue Bomber history, in addition to all the history that he's already made with a win on Saturday afternoon in that atmosphere.
Yeah, what an incredible environment that's going to be, picturing the Bombers raising the Banjo Bowl trophy, one of my favorite trophies in sports, and they show on the Jumbotron there, Mike O'Shea, all-time wins leader for Winnipeg Blue Bombers head coaches. What a moment that would be. So he's, as you said it great. I mean, you said it very well, Huss. Mike O'Shea's pretty great too for a guy who seems to want to, downplay every accomplishment he's had as Winnipeg Blue Bombers head coach. Seemingly never satisfied. Nothing's ever good enough for him. But you look at the numbers that he's put up here after, what was a very rocky start to his head coaching career. I think it's pretty safe to say, well, especially, after he passes this all-time wins, which you imagine they're going to get one more win. He's going to get one more win this season.
Saturday.
They could put Mike O'Shea's statue next to the Bud Grant statue at Princess Auto Stadium.
They should already be working on it. They should already be working on it right now. And this era of Blue Bomber football is, arguably amongst the greatest in the history of the franchise. I mean, if they had just been able to finish one of those last two Grey Cup games, I think it would be undoubtedly be a dynasty. But I mean, the bottom line is that, he's the most humble guy you will ever meet. He doesn't want to talk about himself. You got to respect that. But we do want to talk about the job that he's done. And I cannot think of a more fitting scenario for O'Shea to become the winningest coach in Blue Bomber history on Saturday afternoon at the Banjo Bowl. Let's quickly hear from Chris Streveler. Streveler was in good spirits after the game. Finishing it up, he was asked about being in first place, as well as the injury to his quarterback mate, Zach Collier, who was knocked out after the first half.
I mean, we're not even thinking about top of the West. There's so much ball to be played. It's about one game at a time. And we did what needed to be done there at the end to get a win. Wasn't our prettiest win in the second half, but again, did what needed to be done. Defense made plays when they had to. Offense, we kept the ball on the ground and got some first downs. Poppy made some big kicks, and again, one play better and got the win today, and we're going to see him in 6 days again.
Tough was it to see Zach go down?
It's always tough, man. I mean, I got so much love for that guy, and he's such a great teammate, and he just does so much for this team and for me in that room, and the leadership that he shows for us is so big. And so even to just have him on the sideline in the second half and be able to talk through things, like his leadership and what he brings to this team means a lot to me, and it means a lot to those guys in the locker room. So anytime you see a guy like that go down, it's it's tough. But the best way to honor them is to go out and play hard and get a win, and that's what we did.
Yeah, it's, no question about how hard Strevler played. I mean, that is pretty much his calling card. There's just one more clip from Strevler. A fellow quarterback asked about the hit that took out Collier.
It's frustrating. I mean, it's hard to see guys like that go down, and I didn't get a great look at the play. I just kind of saw him down. I saw it was a high hit. You'd love to be able to eliminate those from the game as much as possible, but it's just unfortunate, man. And I hope that we can start to eliminate some of those high hits on quarterbacks, head-to-head things from the game, because there's just no place for it in football, So hopefully we can start to limit that stuff, and it's always tough to see.
All right, there's Chris Strevler. Was he wearing a shirt of a Costco hot dog?
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen them wear this shirt before. It says Here, I'll put it on. Let me bring it back up. You can see the Kirkland logo pretty clear. So they've worn the shirt. It says, "I've got that dog in me." You can see at the top, it says, "I've got that." And it's a picture of the, what is it, $1.50 Costco hot dog and a Pepsi. Maybe the greatest deal out there that you can get these days. So paying tribute to one of the great brands, Kirkland. Shout out to Chris Strevler.
All right, there's Strevler. Hammer's ready to go. We're going to bring him in right now. But of course, Saturday is game day here in the PEG, Princess Auto Stadium. 2:00 start, a little earlier than some of the Banjo Bowl games have been in the past. It's going to be coast to coast on CTV. We've got Saturday CFL games on CTV for the rest of the year, which means that they'll be firing it up early, noon, maybe even earlier at the Princess Auto Tailgate Zone. But if you are heading down to the game, make a day of it. Get there to the Princess Auto Tailgate Party. $5 hot dogs, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, or $5 beers, I should say. I've got hot dogs on my mind after looking at that shirt. And, of course, Joey Chestnut's historic victory yesterday in the unfinished beef. But there's no day at Princess Auto Stadium all year like the Banjo Bowl. Get there for the Princess Auto Tailgate Party. Beforehand, of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, with 2 locations to serve you, Panet Road and Portage Avenue West, with the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around and the best deals on them. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. I guarantee you, I have warned the staff at the stadium to stock up on their Canadian club in previous games. They better be ready to go for Saturday, because Bomber fans, Rider fans are going to be locked and loaded and ready to go. And as you've seen before, few things go better with a great night of football at Princess Auto Stadium than Canadian Club. And while people will be enjoying their cocktails in and around the Rum Hut, don't forget CC and Ginger Ale, also available throughout the stadium, as Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You can also pick up CC and Ginger Ale on your next stop to your local beer vendor, and the entire Canadian Club family of products waiting for you at your local Manitoba liquor marts, as well as at the stadium on game day. Shout out to Wallace & Wallace for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Man, it's been a busy summer for them when it comes to fencing. They've been the fencing leaders in town since 1946. Every temporary fence in the city seems to be a Wallace & Wallace. And if you need the security and protection of a new fence, they've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. But if you need a new garage door, which will add value to your home as well, they're the leaders in overhead garage doors, with the largest selection in town as the official Clopay dealer of Manitoba. So something to perfectly match your home. They've got it for you. Whether it's fencing or overhead doors, give them a call at 204-452-2700. Their team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit Wallace & Wallace at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. And just as we bring in Hammer, we do have a new season coming on. Fall is just about here. If you need to up your menswear game heading into fall and winter, get on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400. along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. If you're in a wedding party or having a wedding, definitely talk to the guys at F about a 15% discount when you get your suits at F Apparel, and take advantage right now of their sale, 25% off the purchase of any 3 shirts. F Apparel's at 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online or book an appointment at that's EPHapparel.com. All right, the Hammer's back from Regina as well. What a weekend, what an event, and what a win for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That was a heck of a weekend. It was great seeing you out in Regina. How was your weekend experience, Jeff? I thought it was one of the best overall. Lots of fun to be had in the Queen City, no matter what color you were wearing.
Yeah, I was telling a handful of people, Huss, who asked me a similar question, and I guess I'm ready to say the Labor Day Classic is back. I say that obviously in the context of the last few years. I mentioned it on your show a couple of weeks ago that I thought it would be, way better attended than previous years, and it was. I mean, that's obviously has to do with COVID-19 pandemic and people just having less of a desire. It kind of been declining since then, even the few years even before COVID, but I felt like it had a mighty comeback. You could feel it, the energy in the stands. I took the opportunity to step out into the crowd to kind of feel really what the atmosphere was like, because I will say, as beautiful as Mosaic Stadium is, maybe to some people joy, the press box was a bit of an afterthought in the sense that there's windows right up, so it's like watching the game in front of a car window, which is kind of annoying. But the atmosphere was amazing. The game was absolutely incredible. As for the drive home, as everyone knows, my favorite part of Regina is that drive straight out of town. You just ride Victoria, Avenue right into Winnipeg, and nothing a couple deep breaths and some heavy sighs couldn't fix. And here I am, ready to go this week.
It was awesome. Just before we kind of dive into the game and the aftermath and heading into the Banjo Bowl, I mean, I said it right off the top, but the Bomber Nation showed out for this one, and I had been the last couple years. It was, to be honest, when I think about the Wayne's World Party where all the Bomber fans and the buses kind of go for it, that was as packed a scene as I can remember shortly before the game. And, just out on the town, whether you're at, the Vic Tavern or O'Hanlon's or, people were at Ballers at one point, the turnout for Bomber fans at Crave, where Wade and his staff would, if you showed up in Bomber gear, they gave you a ticket for a free one. A free beer gets Winnipeggers fired up. They all seemed to show up for that. And and it was just exactly what this weekend is all about traditionally. And as I said, if you could bottle that and take it to the other areas of the Canadian Football League that maybe don't have the same sort of support and make that happen, the league would never look back. But Rider fans overall were really fun. It's a great event for the city of Regina. And then the game happened, and it absolutely delivered. I mean, we use the term Labor Day Classic to describe the weekend and the event. This was a classic game from two very evenly matched teams that went back and forth toe-to-toe all game long. But really for the Bombers, a tale of two halves. An explosive offensive first half with Zach Colleros in, and then playing field position, playing ball control, doing your best to, limit the Saskatchewan offense, and a game that ended up coming right down to the final play after Bomber fans had thought they'd won the game a couple of times already.
Yeah, it's funny how heading into the game, it was being, myself included, dubbed as a, defensive battle, just given where both teams' offenses were trending and really where both teams' defenses were trending. But I think a 29-14 first half, nobody would have predicted. So lots of action, and certainly a resurgence from the offense that had been struggling to score touchdowns. To get for Zach Colleros to lead the offense to 3 of them in the first half was certainly a good sign for that group. And nothing. I guess the Riders' defense had been giving up yards and stuff, but they've been ball hawks and limiting the points. However, the second half, everything kind of came undone, of course, after the news that Colleros wouldn't be playing in the final 2 quarters, and Chris Streveler took over and did probably what a lot of people imagined he would do. Clearly with 6 passing attempts, they weren't asking him to do too much, trying to don't want to say they were trying to milk that lead, because you can't really do that in the Canadian Football League. And if you do, often it will come back to bite you. Well, the Riders came back, of course, at home, and, being rallied by that crowd of 33,000 plus at Mosaic Stadium, and made it a game. Now, look at there's so many little things. I was gonna text Remo and say, you're saving me nothing to talk about in my notes column post game, with all the small, kind of small plays that mattered throughout the game, whether that was the Lucky Whitehead return, whether that was, Evan Holm holding on to the ball for those, accidental few, number of seconds that led to it. But just the fact that the Riders could make it a game. I mean, after the failed 2-point convert, following the potentially game-tying touchdown drive that the Riders put together at the end, when they failed that 2-point, you saw thousands of people heading for the exits. It was just a flood of green that had seen this movie before, right? The Riders battle right to the end, but come up just short. And the fact that they were able to create some kind of, craziness at the end, of course, that being a 60-yard field goal attempt by Brett Lowther. And it was interesting to hear Corey Mace afterwards, as you mentioned, Huss, that I don't know if I had it about 10 or 12 yards ahead, but it was at least a healthy, 7-8 yards, where I think a lot of people thought the penalty was, but it was a point of contact penalty. So the receiver was actually grabbed at the point of where the field goal ended up being, or where the ball ended up being placed, and that's why it led to a 60. Once that happened, I mean, Brett Lowther is he's a good kicker. I know he made headlines a couple of weeks ago when he couldn't get the job done in that tough loss to Toronto. But as soon as I saw it was 60 yards, I mean, anyone outside of Sergio Castillo is just not making that. But I still do think you try to take the adrenaline, you try to take the energy of the crowd, and you just hope that this guy can boot the crap out of the ball. And, despite his best efforts, it sailed well short, and Lucky Whitehead put it to rest. But man, that was even after the game, and, you can kind of tell with, through Mike O'Shea's press conference and a bit of Chris Struthers, but the locker room afterwards was really subdued. It was, it didn't feel like, they just gutted out a victory in enemy territory and in front of a hostile environment. And whether that was, they didn't like parts of their game, and I'd certainly understand that, or, they're not about to pat, whether it was a Mike O'Shea conversation after the game where it was, don't pat yourself on the back for being top in the West. There's still plenty of, season to figure out here, or if whether they were just emotionally drained watching that last, whatever it was, minute and a half on in the game time, but probably but close to 15 minutes of real time at the end of the game that just left them exhausted, or maybe a combination of all that. But it was, here we are after an 0-4 start for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, now 6-6. Again, nothing to be proud of, but it's, given the year in the West, it's enough for first place in the West. And, a huge victory in that it leapfrogged the Riders, of course, but it also even the season series. And with the season series, with the Bombers already having the season series against Calgary, against BC, and now potentially against Saskatchewan here, and if they can win this weekend in the Banjo Bowl, it sets them up in great position. Now it's still going to be tough. It's still going to be a battle to the end, but that is like having an extra win, on these teams. So, the Bombers have climbed back. They're back to where they are, but, we'll get into some of the injuries here, and who knows what this team's going to look like this, come Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're going to have a lot of time to focus in on the crazy West Division tomorrow on CFL 110 here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But focusing out on the game, it's funny that Brett Lowther had the opportunity to be the hero with that 60-yarder. Listen, I don't know whether O'Shea hands out game balls like a lot of coaches do after the game, but if I was in that room and giving out game balls, in addition to some other guys that came up big, Sergio Castillo and Jamison Sheehan, special teams, to me, were massive difference makers. I mean, the biggest play in the game from my perspective was, Jamison Sheehan's punt, which was going to be a coffin corner. The way he kicked it was, purposefully sort of a fluttering ball, and the way, and it has to bounce, the way that it bounced to catch the returner off guard, got a touch on it, and the next thing you know, it's a touchdown. I mean, in a close game like that really can end up being the difference. But I thought that was the play. He was strong in the game. And Sergio, I mean, I laughed on the way home. We were talking about, no one's really talking about the Rouge today. The Rouge he kicked on the kickoff was a massive play in the game. I mean, that point was very, very important. And the fact that they have the confidence to throw him out. 52, no problem. 56, done deal. Both the guys in that kicking room had their fingerprints all over that win. It truly was a full team win.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can certainly probably apply this to every single game. It just seems to bring on an added height when, certainly over the Labor Day weekend, and particularly in this game, is that it's going to go down to one or two plays, a handful of plays. And you have to give a ton of credit to the special teams. As you mentioned, as I wrote my column today, Jamison Sheehan kicked it only the way the Aussie can kick it, right? He's been practicing those types of kicks, those directional kicks, those that will take funny bounces and weird bounces. As you mentioned, it's key that they do bounce, because that's where it really, really kind of goes into play of messing up. And sure enough, it goes through the fingers and might even graze the helmet of Mario Alford before it bounces into the end zone. And there's Nick Howlett, jogging on the spot, ready, just hops on it for a touchdown, the second touchdown in as many games for the special teams unit. And you mentioned Jamison Sheehan. I mean, he might not have the best punting average, but, the way he can deliver certain punts and situational punting, we'll call it, there's few that are better than him. And I think, something that needs to be brought up, that, he's doing his job when he's not being mentioned, but the critical part in the Castillo and Jamison Sheehan equation is long snapper Mike Benson. Mike Benson is, he needs to be delivering on all those key moments. So he definitely delivers in all those, because as I mentioned, nobody talks about Mike Benson, because Mike Benson is doing his job perfectly when nobody brings him up. It's only when there's a botched snap, when those things occur that usually the long snapper gets attention. But that trio, they work so well together. There's such a fun group to watch. There's such a fun group to be around. They're so positive, and they I'm not get too emotional or whatever, but they deeply care about each other, and that plays a massive role in all these operations and encouragement and in-game situations. When you have that kind of support within your own inner circle, in this case, it can go a long way. And while special teams hasn't exactly gotten their flowers this year, and in some ways rightfully so, they've certainly improved throughout the season under a new coach and Mike Miller. And the last thing I'll mention, Huss, is you're right. I mean, that Rouge obviously played a significant role in this whole thing. And I as much as I give credit to Sergio Castillo for ultimately being responsible for it, it's Alford back there that is not doing his job. And being in Regina for this game, being the only reporter in English newspaper in this country to still travel for the CFL on the road, I'm there asking, Corey Mace, where they're talking about it being a must win for this team, and how, all their players going through about it being down to one or two plays, a handful of plays, that if you don't have your focus on and able to execute within that time, things can turn on a dime. And Mario Alford ultimately was not prepared on two critical moments, and it cost the Riders 8 points and a 2-point loss. So that's the beauty of this game. That was the beauty of the Bombers win. And while, it didn't look good near the end, and they certainly held on with Chris Streveler at the helm, they were able to gut out a gutsy victory in what was an incredibly tough place to get 2 points.
Well, and you mentioned Streveler coming in. I mean, that is because of the hit from Miles Brown on Zach Collaros, which was correctly flagged for 15 yards, although they didn't really benefit from it because the ball was going to be on the one anyways due to the pass interference call. What was your perspective on that? I mean, we know what Wade had to say to you after the game. He was not happy, which you can imagine he wouldn't be. Is that something that they should have potentially ejected him for? Is there the potential that they might discuss that this week and have Miles Brown not eligible for the Banjo Bowl?
Yeah, I don't think we're looking at a suspension here just because of it. It wasn't. I just don't. Just judging with the way the league has treated these. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he was suspended. Again, I'm not putting it as a high percentage. But I would see that as more of a reactive move by Commissioner Randy Ambrosie, which I'm sure is not pleased by the comments with Wade Miller. So I'm not sure he's going to go to that degree. We'll see what happens with Zach. As you've already said, he didn't go through a concussion protocol. That's not to suggest that it couldn't be a concussion. I just think it's more formalities in this case. It seems like the command center, the concussion or the safety spot checker, if you will, it had Zach got up and then moved to the sideline and was about to go on, I think they would have called down and informed it. But I think it kind of made the point moot when he went back to the dressing room there, and then remained there at half and was checked over. The Bombers have their own process. They would go through that process. They would ensure where Zach was at and where they believed he was. They would obviously use his insight. I believe Zach probably wanted to go back into that game, but the Bombers, given Zach's history, history with head injuries and not just head injuries but neck injuries too. I mean, he had a whiplash kind of motion in the when he got injured from that Edmonton game. What was that, last season? Now we're talking about 2 years ago, I think last season, Drew Brown took over, right, and marched the Bombers back to victory. But so there's all these things at play that I think you have to take the person into consideration. In this case, I believe that was it. As far as the hit goes, I mean, it's dirty, man. I mean, that's how else do you say it? And it's embarrassing from the CFL. And this isn't just about hits on Zach Collier. This is hits over the last few years, and just a few happened to be on Zach Collier. And whether it's Drew Brown this year, whether it's Jeremiah Masoli before, whether it's whatever quarterback's taking these headshots, the CFL just doesn't take him seriously. And I think and I wrote about this. I think this is one of those things where where the reality is that you need to pretty much put in rules in the league to deter guys from happening. Because the way it works now, why wouldn't you pop Zach Collier in the shoulder with your head? Whatever. You'll get a 15 yard roughing the passer. You might even get ejected from the game if it's too bad, but you're not getting much else. And the fact of the matter is, defensive linemen are not scared of the penalties. And until something changes, we're going to keep doing this. The other side note is, and this isn't a Winnipeg bias, certainly not, I don't care, but the Roughriders are dirty, man. Like, how can the evidence is so clear. Like, it's Miles Brown now. It was Pete Robertson last year. It was Garrett Marino the year before. I mean, you only need to look at history to say, and I know it's a different coach. I don't think any of the players gave a shit what Craig Dickinson had to say, but Corey Mace is a different beast. And I think he's going to have to take accountability of his players' actions. Of course, you need to stick up for your guy. You're not going to throw him under the bus, but you can't be, this Miles Brown is the same guy who recklessly rolled into Drew Brown's legs before and got him out for another game. So it's just, Randy Ambrosie needs to wake up before he gets canned by the owners of this league, because you only need a Wade Miller and maybe one more person to not like the role that you're doing to be in the unemployment line. And that very well could be where Randy Ambrosie is headed. Because, at this point, it's absolute bullshit. It's stuff that doesn't happen in the NFL or in college, and it's taken seriously. And the CFL looks like a joke. No one goes to games to watch Miles Brown. No one knows who he is. No one cares who he is. So at this point, Randy Ambrosie needs to do his job and step in. The officials need to wake up. It all needs to get done, because this is a thing we've been talking about for 24, 23, 22. You can go back to when Drew Edwards was a reporter in Hamilton. He was ringing the bell in 2016, 2017. So it's just, it's a reoccurring problem. It's
so what's the complaint
that
he should have been ejected from the game?
Well, shouldn't be aiming, it shouldn't be a roughing the passer for accidental head. You shouldn't be going after a quarterback's head. I don't care if it's accidental. It should be eliminated from the game. And people go, well, quarterback's like everybody else. No, the quarterback is not like everybody else. The quarterback gets the ball every single game and is put in positions where he throws. He's the most vulnerable player on the field. And we love seeing guys get blown up in this game. The reality is the football is not going to be around much longer if we continue to allow these kind of hits. So something needs to give. The reality is, whether it's accidental or not, guys should be ejected for getting contact in the helmet and head. If you can't play within the rules, if you can't play within these new rules, then you shouldn't be playing football. And so that's where we're at as a society right now. That's where we're at as a sport. That's why kids aren't signing up for football anymore. That's why kids now play flag football until they're 18, 21 years old, because they don't want to be in a wheelchair when they're 21 years old. And so until we take it seriously, until the CFL takes it seriously, and you need a guy I give a ton of credit to Wade Miller for coming out and saying something, because no one's going to give a shit if a player talks about it. It needs to be the owners. They need to take ownership of this league. They run it, and they need to tell the guy who's got the puppet strings attached to his suit and is the one who's face fronting to this league to change things. And until that happens, we're going to continue to see players get knocked in every week. Is that enough?
Well, I mean, listen, I guess listen, I want to see the quarterbacks protected, and things that are obviously malicious and dirty, I should be handled that way. And I'm not sure they really haven't been. Like, I can't think of a bunch of other examples that we were sitting here going, how did that guy not get kicked out? And listen, the thing with Brown is, I mean, you were right. They were somewhat dirty. And I mean, that was it was cheap. It was borderline. You could tell he sort of lowered the shoulder at the end. And I would love for the command center to be able to kind of get in there and get involved. And I believe that they can. They just haven't really done that. I mean, there is a little bit of plausible deniability. Like, I didn't think that was as outrageous as some of the hits that we've seen before in football. Listen, if you're on the Bomber side of things, absolutely you're choked about it. If you're the Riders side of things, you're probably saying that's football. And I don't know. I think that if that was game, well, here's the question. I guess I'll ask you this because I mean, obviously everyone agrees they need to do that, and Wade was really hot about it, and that'll be topic, and we'll hit it on CFL 110 tomorrow. If the game was not 29-14, but say the Bombers are down 17-14 at half, does Zach Collaros play the second half of that football game?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think. I mean. Maybe it's a bit naive to suggest that the score didn't play a factor in it, but I don't think that they were looking at the end results here and the precautionary reasons. Because look, a 14-point lead, or 29-14, so a 15-point lead, Huss, this just as much as anybody else, is barely a lead in the CFL. So this idea that bring Zach in and try to go up further and then pull himself out if you thought that the lead was good enough. But I know that's not what you were suggesting. But if you're looking at this lead, determining whether a lead is good enough for an injury, I just don't think that is. So score really just has nothing to do with it.
I just found it weird that if it's precautionary, you worry about his head, that he wouldn't have been in the protocol or gone through testing or anything like that. It was just like, you know what, we don't want you to get hit again, so we're just going to leave you out for the rest of the game. Anyways, I just really did.
So that's what I said, Huss. Just because don't get fooled by the idea that the the CFL protocol, they didn't go through this because the command center never called them down and said they had to do it. So it wasn't like this formal process. But make no mistake, I mean, Collaros was being checked out for a concussion. The Bombers would not take a guy who has a history that Zach Collaros does with head injuries, see the whiplash he would have endured and the contact to his helmet, and not check for a concussion. That was definitely done. It was that they determined in their standard that Zach wasn't good enough, therefore they become precautionary reasons. I mean, if you want it to be worded differently, it could be he didn't pass our test, so we didn't put him in. I mean, that's essentially what happened in the game.
It sounds positive for Zach for the weekend, not so much for Biggie. What are you hearing about Adam Bighill? Because it did not look good. I mean, for a guy that's the competitor that he is, to be basically being carried by two people off the field at such a crucial time, you knew something was not right with number 4.
Yeah, especially when you look at him on the ground the way he is. We all know how tough Adam Bighill is. We all know how big of how savage, if you will, to use his term, he is out on the field, and we know how much work he puts into the weight room off it. So to see him wincing there the way he was wincing, to require the help to get off the field, the fact that they were looking at what appeared to be his left knee and calf. It's not good. What I'm hearing, early reports is they're waiting for, final results, I suppose, but it doesn't look good. I don't see him. Let's save any kind of conversation about, where he might be after this season. I know a lot of people are talking about his age, and I certainly wrote about it yesterday, and given the miles and injuries had this season, Adam Bighill's been beat up since training camp. So, without focusing on what this could mean next, I think if there's any goal here, whether it's reachable, I tend to think it's not. I could see Adam Bighill being, done for the year. That's ultimately a report that I've received. He's not going to be back anytime soon. He's certainly not going to be at practice this week. From what I gather, he'll be lucky to be back this year, which is an unfortunate situation, of course. We know how important, Bighill is on the field for that defense. He's been a big part of that, that dominating defense that we've seen from, pretty much all season long. It's a big loss. He won't be going anywhere. He'll be with the team. But, as I wrote yesterday too, or today's paper, it was, count him out at your own peril. If there's anybody who may be able to, to do something to make it come like a miracle, then, it's Adam Bighill. So obviously, everyone wishes him the best, but I don't think it's great news at this point.
Well, no, I'm with you. And I mean, as I said, I'm sitting there in that stadium and watching, and I've often said on this program that Adam Bighill's the sort of guy that he's probably going to need to be dragged off the field at the end. And it was happening. Dragged is not the right term, but being helped off the field. I couldn't help but think, like, is this maybe the last time we'll see Bighill in a Blue Bomber uniform if it's serious enough that he's not here for the rest of the year? And unfortunately, that's a question that, we will be asking as to what his future is this season and, what does that mean for next year? Shout out to the Scooch, Joe Pascucci in chat. This is interesting. I had never heard of this before, but here's a suggestion. Have players called for roughing the passer also penalized by missing the next 3 plays. Basically a penalty box addition to it. I certainly would not be opposed to that. 3 plays, again, if you're losing a quarterback for a half or a full game, there's no, I think in addition to the other things that we're talking about, that would
certainly
be
a step in the right direction. We'll say that.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see if that Scooch, we're going to have to get Scooch on maybe in time for the Banjo Bowl. Miss talking to him as of late. So we move into this week.
Always time for the Scooch.
It is the rematch Saturday afternoon. It's already Tuesday. I would assume the guys are off today and then back at it for a couple quick practices, a walkthrough, and then do it all over again.
Yeah, back at work tomorrow. They had today off. Obviously I guess they have Monday, Tuesday off. Off days are interesting. I know they go in and get their medical stuff and whatnot early in the week, but official practice starts tomorrow. So if the game's on Saturday, practice Wednesday. I imagine there'll be a closed practice on Thursday, walk through on Friday, and let's get ready to rumble in the Banjo Bowl on Saturday.
You know what? And Bridget says that big fines might deter CFL players. That is one thing, probably, if they got serious with legitimate fines. Mm-hmm. Although it's difficult to do because of how much money the players make in this league, but I'll tell you what, they'll hurt a lot more and probably end up changing behavior. And Yin Vivian, Joe's always been ahead of his time. It's a really interesting topic. I don't think you get a lot of pushback on something like that. But again, if that alone is put in, I'm not sure it accomplishes where we're trying to get to, but it certainly could be part of the solution.
Who's pushing back on Joe always being ahead of his time?
Yeah. Listen, pump for CFL 110 tomorrow. I know we focused on this game, but big win for the Elks. Massive performance by BC out on the island in the Touchdown Pacific game. Huge for Nathan Rourke. He looked great. And just quickly, and we can get into this tomorrow, but man, there were some incredible quarterbacking numbers on the weekend. MBT almost went for 5 bills yesterday against Calgary. You had 5 quarterbacks hit 300 plus, and Zach Collaros was clearly on the way to doing that as well before being knocked out of the game. It was an amazing weekend for Canadian football. Oh, absolutely. There was maybe some tighter games early on, or I guess there wasn't really a tight game to open. Nathan Rourke's now back to being Nathan Rourke. We'll get into that on TFL 110. Of course, the blockbuster in Regina, followed by what I thought were two interesting games yesterday, and Hamilton getting the job done over, again, in what's been a miserable season for Hamilton. That's one you want to win, right? That's the one that you need to win. So to get that job done, good for them. But the Elks, it'll be an interesting situation in there. McLeod Bethel Thompson, what did he get? I think it was almost 500 passing yards. Yeah, 486, I believe, the final number, which I believe is a career high, which he didn't even know until someone said something to him right before he did his walk-off interview with TSN after the game. But they're buzzing. That West is pretty busy, and as you mentioned, Huss, there were some great quarterback performances. There was also not so great performances, notably Jake Mayer, who was pulled by the end of the week. And so, problems persist in Calgary. No one really knows what's up with the Stampeders, but it's a wild, wild West. And, as I tweeted yesterday, I said, you don't like the standings, just wait a month, because
this has been a wacky year, which is saying something for the CFL.
Yeah, well, the Bombers did it. They're in first place, and they've got the opportunity to put Mike O'Shea in a very special place in Blue Bomber history with a win in front of a sold-out crowd against their most hated rivals, the Riders, on Saturday in the Banjo Bowl. It doesn't get any better than that. Hammer, great stuff. I'll see you tomorrow for CFL 110 right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks for doing this.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
And great to see you, by the way.
Soon.
You were, you know what? I got to say this about Hammer. There's something about the Labor Day weekends that bring out the best and people that are able to work hard and play hard. You are the epitome of that. You would be able to have fun late at night, and then
Always.
You're out 7 a.m, doing a walk, getting ready to dominate the day again. So it was an inspirational performance by you this weekend. I have to give you the.
I think you're giving me a bit too much credit, but it is nice to get up and sweat that out. Like I said, deep breaths were and deep sighs were my best friends over the weekend, particularly on the Monday coming home. But it's always a fun weekend. Great to see you out there. Great to see a handful of Winnipeg media out there. It just felt like a bit of a home game in a lot of ways, but always fun to be in Regina for that one weekend.
It was great. It was great stuff, pal. We'll catch up with you tomorrow and take a trip around the league on CFL 110. Thanks for doing this.
Look forward to it, man. Talk to you soon.
Good stuff. Yeah, we'll have CFL 110 right after WST tomorrow, of course, presented by Garage Living Winnipeg. Let's give a quick shout out to our friends at Little Brown Jug as we continue the show.
Out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
And I can tell you that we did have a nice supply of Little Brown Jug generics, 1919s, on the bus. Wanted to bring some of Manitoba's finest out to Saskatchewan if we were going to be having a few on the weekend. It was good stuff, and there'll be lots going on in the parking lots before the game on Saturday afternoon in the rematch. Huge shout out to our friends at Royal Sports. This is the week. If you missed it or you didn't pick it up, the new Bomber Turf Traditions gear, really cool throwback stuff that they put out, or throwback style merchandise that they put out in advance of Labor Day weekend, is all in at Royal Sports. So you can pop down there and gear up for the Banjo Bowl, along with just incredible selection of Bomber shirts, hats, jerseys. They've got it all there. Of course, it's NFL kickoff on Thursday. All the new NFL gear is in for your favorite teams. And there's all the throwback stuff. A lot of really cool stuff. We saw it, a lot of Bomber fans rocking this on the weekend. So that's all there for you. And, of course, hockey's starting. And one stop to Royal Sports is all you need to take care of everything on the list for the upcoming season. For over 40 years, the #1 hockey superstore in Manitoba. And there's nobody close. Royal Sports to get you ready to drop the puck. 750 Pembina Highway. And don't forget, not this weekend, Banjo Bowl, but the following weekend will be the final tent sale of the year. So mark that down on your calendars over at Royal Sports. And you know what? Yesterday was our last Monday without NFL for months. And that's a great thing. But we don't have to wait till Monday, because we got a primetime game on Thursday and a primetime game on Friday. Boston Pizza, the place to be for primetime NFL action. Great specials, opportunity to win great prizes, ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. It's all there at BP. Saddle up for Chiefs and Ravens Thursday night at your local Boston Pizza. All right, we've got a few things left to do. I should have told Hammer to stick around. We will be doing a special marble race at the end of the program today to determine the draft order in the Media Fantasy Football League. So for those of you that just enjoy watching marbles, stick around. Remis is back to the regular marble schedule. Shout out to our friends at Shipman Associates for getting those new hoodies on the way. We'll work on that. We should have them in a couple weeks. Again, thanks to everyone that's been patient if they won in the last month or so. But I know we're all fired up about football and hockey training camp coming around, but as we mentioned right off the top of the show, our guys, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, have done it. First place is in the books, and now the playoffs begin Wednesday in Sioux Falls. Back here on Friday to quickly talk about the amazing regular season the Fish have had and tee up the playoffs. Let's welcome in our pal, the general manager, Andrew Collier of the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Cash, great to have you on the program. Happy September. Glad you guys are still playing, and congratulations on an amazing regular season. I mean, what a year and what a turnaround under Logan Watson in his first year, or Watkins, in his first year here in the Peg.
Yeah, it's been outstanding. Logan brought in some really quality players, but high character guys. This team is about as close-knit as I've seen in a long time. They all get along really well. Logan didn't have to make a lot of changes this year. Very few changes, and we added a couple pieces near the end, which I think complements what we have. But kudos to our pitching coach, Mark Brewer, and hitting coach, Adam Donahue. They both did a great job as well. The whole coaching staff, I couldn't be happier with what we have here.
Well, listen, if you were away on the weekend and missed it, the Goldeyes wrapped up first place. Playoffs begin this week on Wednesday, and then back at home on Blue Cross Park on Friday. We'll get to that in just a minute. I mean, for the last 6 weeks, it seems, every time we're talking Goldeyes, we're looking at the box scores, and it's another 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1-0 win, 9 Ks. Like this pitching staff, and particularly the group of starters, has to have just put together one of, if not the greatest pitching season in Goldeyes history. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to get Jason Young to break down the numbers, or Trevor to look back at previous good pitching staffs. But this has been one to remember for sure. These guys, and you look at some of the games we've lost. We have 4 1-0 losses this year, which is insane. If we can hit in the playoffs, I don't have any concern about our pitching staff.
I'm just looking at these numbers, and I mean, Matalovich, we've talked about all year long. 19 starts, he finishes with the 2.11 ERA. 145 strikeouts to 22 walks. I mean, did you know much about him? Before. Just quick talk about Joey, because I mean, he was the guy. He certainly got a lot of run on this program, start after start after start.
Yeah, he was released by the Brewers last year, and we were fortunate enough to convince him to come to Winnipeg. And he came in June, I think. And it's funny, he had long hair when he got here, and then he cut his hair. I don't know why. Wanted to change things up. Ever since he cut his hair, he's been outstanding. So maybe it was the hair that was distracting him. I don't know.
The exact same thing happened to Vladdy Jr. Look at Vladdy's numbers pre and post haircut.
There you go.
We have scientific proof that a haircut can inspire you to an incredible season. But listen, he had a lot of help. And we can talk about the bats, and Dason Crowes with another great season when he hit 342. Max was there, but I mean, night after night, I mean, Logan could just count on the guy going out there to basically go for 6 and 7 innings and give this team a quality start and do what it took to win a baseball game.
Yeah, and on the odd night where the starter only went 5 or 6, and only 5 or 6, that's still good. You got Ben Anishko in the pen, Tasker Strobel, Joey Steele, Tom Ponticelli. It's just a great bullpen as well. So even if the guys don't have their best stuff, and Joey, I think it was his last start of the start before, he had over 100 pitches in 5 innings. He still had 9 strikeouts or 10 strikeouts, but after 5 innings he was done. But that's okay. We bring in the bullpen and they'll shut it down for the last 4. Yeah, the whole pitching staff's been fun to watch this year, and we talk about the walks. Walks can drive a manager and a pitching coach crazy, and I think they drilled it into the guys right from the start. Let's let's get it over the plate. Let's start with first pitch strikes and try not to walk anybody, because you're just putting guys on base and giving them the opportunity to drive them in.
A special hat tip to Ben Anishko, who unfortunately really struggled at the end of the year and ended up with a 1.03 ERA on the season, and firmly tongue-in-cheek, but he was running around at about 0.5 for a good portion of this season. Always cool to see a local player, but a guy come in and make that sort of an impact. But you're not done. The regular season is behind you, and now we've got the playoffs. You won the division. I've always wanted to ask someone this question. You are in a league with a playoff format where you get to choose your opponent. Who was involved in the decision? How do you guys decide? Is it just strictly the team you think you can beat? Is there travel involved? And who makes the call?
So travel's not, because it was Sioux Falls, Sioux City, or Fargo, so it's 3.5 hours, 6.5 hours, 9.5 hours, whatever. We're traveling today on an off day, so the travel really didn't matter. And I honestly can't tell you, because it was a closed meeting in the clubhouse. Logan and the coaching staff opened it up to the floor, to the team, and said, hey, what do you guys want to do? And yeah, that was the decision they came to. I wasn't privy to why they picked Sioux Falls, what the different reasons were, but I do know that Sioux City's really hot right now, and their bullpen is outstanding. So I think for that reason they weren't selected. But yeah, team decision.
Well, I always thought that, you'll love to be first place, but at the same time, I mean, there is sort of a downside to it, because no matter who you pick is going to be like, I can't believe we're being disrespected like this. These guys want to play us. All right, we'll bring it on. That being said, once the pitchers get to the bump, it will be, I don't think any of that will really matter. I mean, fill us in on the series coming up. And again, you go through, because it is a short series, and people are wondering, wait a sec, the Goldeyes are first place. Why are they starting on the road?
So we get, because we're the higher seed, we get home field advantage. So what that means is we get 2 out of the 3 games. So we start on the road, come home for Friday, and if game 3 is necessary, then we get that game as well. So that's the home field. But yeah, there's a lot of people looking at the standings saying, why would the Goldeyes, seed number 1, take the number 2 seed as their first round opponent? And that's it's just the way it goes. But you look at the pitchers on Sioux Falls, they're pretty darn good too. Ty Culbreth, I think, is going to go game 2, and I think he's second in the league in ERA. Led the league in wins, one ahead of Joey. By the way, Joey just missed the Triple Crown. That's never been done in the American Association, leading in wins, strikeouts, and ERA. He just didn't get that last win to tie, but was way ahead in strikeouts and way below in ERA. And another note of the pitching staff, we finished with this 3.71 ERA as a team ERA, and almost a full run ahead of the second place team, which is just incredible.
We'll get a chance to see the Fish back here once, potentially twice. So you're starting off in Sioux Falls on Wednesday, Thursday travel day, and then set up the weekend for some big playoff baseball.
Yeah, Friday night's going to be awesome. 7:00 start. We're going to open at 5:30. We got DJ Anto, who we've had here all season on Saturdays. He'll be doing his thing down at Craft Beer Corner. Thanks to Manitoba Blue Cross for helping us out again, and being the presenting sponsor of the playoffs. We're going to have fireworks on Friday night after the game, so that should be a really good show. But yeah, looking forward to Friday night. Playoff baseball in Winnipeg is pretty special. You've been to a number of games. You know how crazy it can get, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Honestly, some of the most memorable / bizarre sporting moments I can ever remember have been down at the ballpark. Especially come playoff time. So Saturday night is game 2. If the Fish win game 1, they could wrap it up in game 2. If not, we're going back at it on Saturday. Is that going to be an afternoon game, or will that be later on?
Well, Bombers are playing it too, so we made it a 6 o'clock start. So
of course.
Have the Winnipeg doubleheader.
Oh my God, that is be perfect. There's been some pretty memorable games when the Bombers have played. I mean, of course, we had the West Final and then the Jets-Leafs game that one night. But I'll tell you what, a big Banjo Bowl victory, and then, although I think we would all love to get this done in 2 and then move on. Listen, I know you're not looking past anyone or anything this series, but the second round, would that start, like, Winnipeg is going to go to a best of 5. The Goldeyes would have home advantage because they were the first place team. Would that start early next week, or do we know as much about just how the landscape of the playoffs, I guess, coming out of this quick 3-gamer?
Yeah, I'll try to remember all the dates, but it's on the American Association website under September. It shows all the dates. So the first round and second round are both best of 3s. The final round's a best of 5. So if we're fortunate enough to advance, Sunday would be an off day. We would start Monday. We would start on the road because we're still the higher seed. Tuesday off day, Wednesday, Thursday back home for games 2 and maybe 3. And then a couple days after that, finals would start.
I know it's going to be a busy week down at the Goldeyes offices selling tickets and getting ready. Fill people in on how they can count themselves in for Friday night playoff baseball down at Blue Cross Park.
The easiest and best way is to go to goldeyes.com, click on that Get Tickets link, buy your tickets, put them in your wallet on your phone, because I think there was people who missed the first 3 innings of the game yesterday because they're lined up at the ticket office to buy. Buy the tickets online on your phone. That's the easiest, best way to do it. If you don't have a phone, come on down to the box office. Will and Jess will help you out.
Yeah, and just quickly on the crowds. I mean, what a summer. I mean, May and June were light. I mean, the weather was brutal, but I mean, almost every game in August seemed to be pushing 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, and a hell of a final weekend to send the boys off on the road after clinching a banner.
Yeah, it was really good. It's so Landon Barrasso was one of our best recruiters this year because he recruited 3 of his former University of San Francisco teammates, Rob Emery, who's probably going to be the All-Star Catcher of the Year, Joey Steele, and Tom Ponticelli. These crowds are what Landon was telling them about when he was convincing them to come to Winnipeg. Come to Winnipeg, we packed the place. So the home opener was great. I'm sure there was a few games in May and June where they were looking around saying, okay, this isn't packed, Landon. But July and August have been great, and they've even mentioned it to me. This is fun. This is enjoyable to come to the ballpark when we look up and see that many people here. I think they'll believe whatever Landon tells them from now on because he came through on that one.
Well, certainly the best bit of advice you've had for fans is to get your tickets early and to do it online, because I can concur a lot of times. And that's the beauty of, baseball people. Like, hey, there's a game on. Let's just whip down and grab some tickets. You'd rather be having a little brown jug and a piece of pizza or some pierogies or a hot dog and be in the ballpark than waiting in a massive line to get tickets because you didn't get them done. It's so quick. It's so easy. Make that happen. And let's get ready. Now, summer's technically over, I guess. We're now on the other side of Labor Day weekend. What a great first weekend of fall with the Banjo Bowl and playoff baseball down at Blue Cross Park. Good luck to Logan and the fellas. It's been a great season so far, but I know there's much more to come. Andrew, we will see you at the ballpark on the weekend. Thanks so much for doing this, and good luck on Wednesday on the road.
Thank you. We'll see you at the park this weekend.
All right, great stuff with Andrew. Friday night, get down to the ballpark. And I would love for the Goldeyes to take care of it in 2. But if there is a game on Saturday afternoon, a little Banjo Bowl into a playoff deciding game 3 down at the ballpark sounds like a pretty damn good Saturday Saturday as well. What's our weather looking like right now? I know it can change, but if we click on Winnipeg, looking forward to the Banjo Bowl and this baseball weekend. So it's not going to be particularly that warm later on, although, 30 degrees today? Man, I didn't expect that. It was very hot in Regina, though, so I guess it could be. But yeah, Friday, 17 and sunny. Banjo Bowl day, 21 and sunny. Absolutely perfect for some baseball and some football here in Winnipeg. Listen, I want to get to a quick Breezy Bend golf update because we have our teams for the President's Cup, which of course is coming to Montreal in Canada for the first time at the end of the month. I'm actually going to Montreal for this. Very, very excited for it. And I think Canadian fans are going to be very, very excited because we are going to have 3 Canadians. Mike Weir made his captain's picks today. They are Minwoo Lee, Christian Bezadenhout, and Siwoo Kim, along with Taylor Pendrith, Corey Connors, and Mackenzie Hughes. So those are the guys that were added to the club, added to the team. There's going to be, and I guess no Adam Hadwin. We thought Hadwin might be able to make it, but Mac Hughes has just been such a great putter this year, and it's so important. So they'll join Hideki Matsuyama, Tom Kim, Sung Jae Im, Adam Scott, amongst the guys that made the club. And then the President's Cup picks for the States were just made. I'm a little disappointed our guy Akshay Bhatia is not going to be on the team. But the captain's picks, Keegan Bradley, Sam Burns, Tony Finau, Brian Harmon, Russell Henley, and Max Homa, in addition to Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, and Sahith Theegala as well. I'm missing one other individual. Russell Henley's in there. Xander Morikawa, Keegan Bradley, Clark. Oh, Sam Burns and Homa. So, Matt, it's going to be amazing. So we've been waiting for it for a while. Now we can start planning for Montreal in 3 weeks for the President's Cup. Shout out to our friends at Breezy Bend. What a great season we've had out at the Bend. Going to try and get out a couple more times before the end of the season. But if you're thinking about an amazing place to make you and your family's long-term golfing home, get in touch with our pal Corey Johnson at the clubhouse for some more details on that. You can also check out breezybend.ca for a membership and, of course, wedding rentals as well if you got a big day coming up. All right, let's get over to Coolbet and our Coolbet Lines and a couple of things to tell you about. First of all, CFL line's not out yet. I take that back. They are out yet. Remis, what do you think, without looking, what do you think the line in the Bomber Rider game is? I had predicted on the Lock Shop today 3.5 for the Bombers, considering it's at home.
Yeah, Bombers -3.
It's actually -2.5. The exact same line that the Riders were favored in the Labor Day Classic is now the Banjo Bowl. And I guess maybe they're thinking about Zach Caleros, but it's out there right now. The money line is +125 for Saskatchewan, -154 for Winnipeg. So a little bit more of a heavy favorite as far as winning the game, but a 2.5-point spread. The Elks are 2.5-point favorites at home to the Stampeders in the rematch of the Labor Day game yesterday. Toronto's in Ottawa. Ottawa's a 1.5-point favorite, and the Montreal Alouettes are 3-point favorites against the British Columbia Lions. So, if Montreal beats BC and the Bombers can beat Saskatchewan, they'll actually have what would amount to a 1.5-game lead over the rest of the Western Division. We'll chop into that tomorrow on CFL 110. Alouettes still the favorite at +215 to win the Grey Cup. BC next at +250. Bombers now +450 to win the Grey Cup. And of course, we have NFL lines 2 days away from NFL kickoff. All the futures odds are up right now. If you want to bet your team a win total or get a Super Bowl wager in right now, get over to Coolbet. And they've got, for all of you that have been with Coolbet. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, you want to go, use the promo code WST. You'll get a 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $200. But for people that have been with Coolbet and are thinking about getting back in for the beginning of the season, we've got some good news for you. We have a special reload bonus where anyone that has been with Coolbet can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $50. So if you bet $50, you'll get another $50. Just in time for week 1. Go over to the promotions page. You'll see the NFL reload bonus. Click on that. You're going to want to use the promo code or enter the code NFLRL24 and then select your deposit amount up to $50. And we'll get you set up for that. Ravens and Chiefs, Thursday night. Chiefs, 3-point favorites against the Ravens. Kansas City minus 147. The Ravens plus 125 to win. And then the exact same money line on the Friday night game, Remis. The Packers plus 125. Eagles minus 147. That line is 2.5 for Philly. I'm really excited. I mean, we could not have two better games to kick off the season. I think the Packers are live dogs, though, in that Brazil game at plus 125. I have very high hopes for the Packers this year. Not necessarily because I like them. I'm kind of partial to the Vikings in the NFC. But I think this is going to be a huge year for Jordan Love and Green Bay, building off what they did in the second half of that season. And, of course, their thrashing of the Cowboys in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Packers, man. Jordan Love really came on this year. They have so many young receivers, very talented. That's going to be a challenge when we do our fantasy draft. Which one are you going to be taking? They got rid of Aaron Jones at running back. Defense coming on. Packers, they looked up and coming last year. They, arriving and advancing further into the playoffs. After I do remind me of that shocking, dominant performance against the Dallas Cowboys. Hilarious, actually, for all the Cowboys haters out there. There are many. But Green Bay, we weren't sure about Jordan Love for a while, but it seemed like he arrived at the end of last season.
Yeah, no, 14-1 for the MVP. I may have a piece of that one. I think they're looking to give it to someone else other than Mahomes or Lamar. Jordan Love could be that dude this year. For you Viking fans, though, I can tell you that the Vikes in New York on the road and are actually laying 1.5 points in that first week of the season. We'll really spend a lot of time on the lock shop the next few days breaking down week 1 of the NFL. Certainly on Friday, we will make picks, and we'll get ready for the NFL kickoff on Thursday with the Chiefs being at home to the Baltimore Ravens and raising another banner. Chiefs going for a never been done before three-peat in the NFL, having won the last 2 Super Bowls and looking to do it again. So there you have it. Don't forget NFL reload bonus right now. Click on the promotions and get in that NFL RL24. And whatever you bet up to $50 will be matched just in time for NFL kickoff. All right, Remo, let's get to the track. These next couple weeks are crucial for me. I need to come up with some big wins. I'm hoping tonight will be the night. But let's fire up HPI Bet and get ready for Assiniboia Downs. Post time tonight, 7:30 p.m. They'll be back at it tomorrow as well as Wednesday racing continues through this week and next.
Yeah, and I actually did, I think Tuesday last week, I did okay, Huss. I don't think I lost a ton. Wednesday was not great for me. So I was on a heater. I've kind of cooled off. We'll see how it goes. Big night at the track for us. They do continue to go Monday to Wednesday until the end of September here.
Well, actually, yeah. So this is great. I normally, because they missed some race days earlier on this season through July and the beginning of August, we have extra race days. So today's the 3rd. I thought it was just the next 2 weeks, but we actually go all the way to the 24th of September this year. So I've got 10 race days to make this difference up. And we're diving in head first today with a bunch of plays. All right, let me pull up my picks right now. I'm starting in race number 2. I don't know if you have race number 1 today, but if you do, fire away.
I don't have race 1, but I do have race 2.
And by the way, coming up next, as soon as we're done this, we're going to be doing a marble race to determine the draft order in the Media Fantasy Football League. I know you're going to want to stay for that. Race 2, I'm putting a fin on number 5, CC's Kitten, to win. CC's Kitten, number 5 to win.
I'm doing a 1-5 exacta box. CC's Kitten and Senior Jobim.
All right, moving over to race number 3. I'm going with Zabibo. Horse number 1 to win.
And I have Distinct Tail, horse number 4 to win. Head to head.
All right. Race number 4. I've got the 1-2-7 triactor box. Another Command, Sneaky Situation, and Red Road Runner.
I am not in on this one.
Okay. So we move to race 5. And I'm going 2-3-4 tri box. Dazzling Gold, Longer Shot, Miss Langskip, and Double Barreled Elite.
I got 2-4-6, Dazzling Gold, Double Barrel Elite, and Where's the Pumps?
All right.
We're close. We're close on these. You know, it's one off.
I didn't want to go with. I thought you might be going with the program selections.
I am,
and
yes.
I did want to kind of get a little different. And I mean, I got to make this up, so I need to pop in a horse or two that maybe is a bit more of a long shot. I'm doing another tri box in race number 6. 1-2-6. Nordic Queen, Philly Fatale, and Where the Money Went.
Okay. Well, I'm very similar. I'm 1-2-4. You like the Wit horses. Wit's 10-10, but I can see you wanting to not follow the
I did. I kind of went
AI.
into Wit's 10-10, and I was just looking. I mean, the last time it was at 7.5 furlongs, it finished 7th. It's been doing shorter races, so today wasn't a day for Wit's 10-10. I figured I went with Where's the Money Went, who actually won a 7.25 race at the end of last year. It's only raced once this year in a shorter race, so hopefully Where the Money Went can help me get the money. Final race, I am going with horse number 8 to win, Ratliff City.
I am on horse number 3 to win, Starship Chewbacca.
Starship Chewbacca. All right, there we are. So there are all our plays for today. Join Kirk and Stretch over on the AS Downs YouTube channel if you're not making it out today. If you are there, pay attention. They've always got some good picks. It's going to be a fun night at the track. Beautiful weather, just in time to welcome in September and hopefully cash a few winners. They're back at it tomorrow with live racing. And again, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way up to September 24th. Tuesday night will be the final day of live racing. May have to get back out for the buffet on maybe a Tuesday night with no football in the next couple of weeks. Well, we'll plan that up. Anyways, thanks again to Assiniboia Downs for their support of WST. Looking forward to seeing you all out at the track some point before the end of the regular season. All right, tomorrow night is our big day. It is the Media Fantasy Football League draft. For those of you wondering who is in this league, here are the contestants. Hustler, Remis, Bombing, Mike McIntyre, Commissioner Taylor Allen, Jeff Hamilton, Ted Wyman, John Hodge. Got to see John in Regina. It was nice to see him. Ed Tate, Billick, defending champion who beat me in the finals, Joshua Frey-Sam, and our buddy Slats, Joey Slattery. This was a real fun league last year, Remis. I'd never played in a super flex league where we start 2 quarterbacks, which certainly changes things up a little bit. There was also some weird tweaks. I think it was a point per first down reception or a point per first down. A little bit of different scoring, but it was a great league. Fun to be in it with the guys, and I think we're all looking forward to getting back at it tomorrow with our picks right before we kick off on Thursday.
Yeah, I had never played in a super flex league, and I had a couple of injuries. I started, God, who was that Viking? Jaron Hall? Was that who they played? Like, I had Aiden O'Connell like starting. Because Kirk Cousins got injured, and I was scrambling after they needed 2 quarterbacks. I forget who. I had Brock Purdy. I had Purdy and McCaffrey.
But you picked McCaffrey when everyone else was picking quarterbacks. So, I mean, it wasn't like that wasn't a great play. But you have to have it done. All right. So, for all of you in the league, there's no better way to determine your draft order than with the marbles race. So, everyone's got their name in the race. We will be doing the funnel because there are no eliminations. If for some chance someone is eliminated, they will be the 12th pick. I don't think it's possible on this course, but just in case. And if for some way 2 people are eliminated, it'll go 1 to 10, and then we'll spin the wheel for 11th and 12th picks. But I don't think that should be an issue whatsoever. So we've got it all. We see Hodge, we see Slats, we see Ed Tate, Remis, McIntyre, Josh, Hamilton, Wyman, Bombing, Billick, Taylor Allen. Everyone's there. This is the race that we want to win. Get the first pick in the Media League draft, which goes tomorrow night. Good luck to all. Remis, drop the marbles, and let's see who's getting the first pick today in our draft. And as Isha Boy says, shout out to Ted Wyman. Teddy fighting the good fight. Here he's feeling well, and we very much look forward to having him in the league.
Scott's in here.
All right, who is for sure? Billick's there. Hamilton's that guy. He's always chirping the commissioner, I'm sure. Poor Taylor has to deal with that. Let's see what happens. Ted, looks like Ted, Taylor, and Josh sort of. All right, Ted is in first. Taylor Allen, then Josh. Slats. What am I looking for, like the 12th pick here? What's going on? Where's my marble?
You're 9th.
Oh, yeah. Ted, Josh, and Taylor right now looking quite good. John, Joey, Darren, Billick, Hammer, Hustler, Ed Tate is right now the top 10. Josh has taken over Taylor right now. So it looks like we've got a top 3 as it stands right now of Ted, Josh, Taylor in some order. Then we've got John Hodge.
Where am
Joey
I?
Slattery.
I'm last.
You must be last. You're going to be picking 12. Although we've got some funnels here. We do have some time that maybe some things can change.
I think it's good to be at number 12, right? You get 2 pretty good players.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. There definitely is something to be said for that. All right, who's going to be getting down this funnel first?
Anyone's game.
It really is. Looks like Taylor and Ted are going to be getting through first. Look at Ted. That would be so cool, actually, if Ted did get the first pick. Ted's in first, Taylor's in second, and now I think it's John Hodge. Now, we do have a couple of obstacles that could potentially slow them down, but I think at this point, it's Taylor, it's Ted, it's Ted, it's Taylor. Who's it going to be? Opposite sides, who's getting in first? Is it going to be Ted Wyman? Will it be Taylor Allen? Ted, Taylor, Ted. Taylor, then Ted. All right, John is picking third. Josh fourth, Joey fifth. Bombing, Ed. Oh my God, look at this. Hustler and Remis, the last 2 picks. Well, no one's going to accuse us of fixing it. I'll tell you that much. And we'll be picking each other's pockets all night. We're going to be so mad at each other on Thursday's show after screwing each other throughout it all. All right, so there you have it, folks. For all our friends in the Media League, Taylor Allen, Ted Wyman, John Hodge, defending champion Josh Frey-Sam, Joey Slattery, Darren Bombing, Ed Tate, Billick, Hammer, Mike, Huss, Remis. Tomorrow we pick Superflex League, 2 QBs. Going to be what I'm thinking already, Remis, is of the 10 picks that go for us, how many quarterbacks are off the board by the time it gets to us?
There were a lot very quickly off the board last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
being a
think
2
you
QB.
have to get. I took 2 really early last year. It actually helped me quite a bit.
I didn't. I waited and took Brock Purdy and Kirk Cousins. Because I was picking near the end, and I was like, well, I don't want to reach and take Trevor Lawrence here, and I ended up taking McCaffrey because you guys all took quarterback. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, tomorrow night's our big draft night. I got one more tonight, but there you have it. There's our Media League draft order. I told Taylor we'd handle that, so we'll send in the official results. Kind of disappointed in my performance of marbles today, but we'll have it done. And then, yes, Josh Frey, the champ, is here. Pick number 4. You're on the clock. Billick rigged. Well, I don't know who rigged it. Maybe Taylor. Maybe Taylor got into the computer, the super brain of the commissioner, somehow getting himself the first pick. But hey, shout out to Ted. We'll miss you at the draft in person, and can't wait for tomorrow night. I think we might still get some of the guys together, but we focus now on the picks. Superflex League, 2 QBs. It's the only one I'm in like that, so it'll be a little bit of a different draft board, I think. And then again, I mean, we're just coming out of the Labor Day weekend. We got Banjo Bowl on Saturday, the first full week of NFL, with NFL on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. And then add to it playoff baseball for the Winnipeg Goldeyes. This is going to be awesome. Great show today. Remo, good to have you back. How hard was it to get back in the groove after your extended vacation?
You know, it was easy. September, we had a great game. I was fired up about that. Hockey around the corner. Didn't get to weigh in. I missed all the Rutger talk from last week, his first press conference as a member of the Penguins. So, you know what? I thought it was going to be tough in the chair. I was going to make a lot of mistakes, but no. This one really flew by, just basking in the glow of the Bombers' Labor Day Classic win as we look ahead to the Banjo Bowl. And I mean, I know you want the Goldeyes to, wrap up their series in 2, but imagine taking the bus from Princess Auto Stadium all the way downtown to Blue Cross Park. What a day that would be.
Got to take the blue line.
Yeah.
Got to take the blue line. And hey, I will challenge any Bomber fans that, the stadium's too far away or it takes too long to get there and get out. I'm telling you, if you have not taken transit to the games,
it's the best.
It is the biggest no-brainer. Once I did it, I will never drive again. And even when people say, hey, I can give you a lift, I'm like, I'm actually good. Because, I'll often go to Confusion Corner and then just jump across to the Osborne station. You're talking 15 minutes door to door to the stadium and you're in. And then afterwards, I mean, it is so well organized. As long as you know which of the lines you're taking. I always take the blue line to downtown. You turn around, they load it up, you're out of there. And I think probably getting to wherever your destination is before a lot of people even leave the parking lot. So especially for a game that is going to be so insane with people, the Banjo Bowl, get there a bit early, get on that blue line. A lot of people I'm seeing actually tailgate at the Seal Station or is it the Beaumont Station? Anyways, the ones that are in Fort Garry were the park and rides. Park the car, set up a grill, have a couple, and then just jump on and you're there in 2 seconds. So anyways, there's a little pro tip right now. If you haven't tried the rapid transit to the Bomber games, highly, highly recommended. Thanks to Jeff Hamilton and Andrew Collier for coming on today. Thanks to all of you for joining us after a great Labor Day weekend. Again, I know Pat Rathwell's been in today. Thank you to him, Tara, Jeffrey, the entire team for the 1930 crew. Man, we had a great time. We'll look to expand that next year. And if you missed it, if you haven't been to Labor Day, mark it down right now. Regina, next year, 362 days or whatever from us right now. We'll be doing it again. It'll be a heck of a lot of fun. Gregory, there you go. Blue route from the stadium to Winnipeg Square or Union Station, exactly, for the ball game on Saturday, if necessary. And Greg, I wasn't ignoring you. I was loving your takes in chat. I'm looking forward to your call on the Coaches Show tonight. I know you're going to be bringing it. And I actually do think you make a very good point. I mean, the way the NCAA handles targeting and, those shots, that could be something that would potentially improve the Canadian Football League. So Coaches Show at on OB tonight, 7 o'clock. I'm sure our guy Gregory will be one of the first ones in to talk to the coach. That's going to do it for us today, gang. Have a great one tonight. We will see you tomorrow. I think Mike McIntyre coming on, Murat, just this week. Ken's away in Italy. We'll see if Rennie wants to jump in for his tag team partner. And of course, we'll probably get into a little bit more of the huge news in hockey today. The Leon Draisaitl extension. We were sort of all in on Winnipeg today, which of course was the Labor Day Classic, but huge signing for the Edmonton Oilers, which has made a lot of people in Edmonton quite happy knowing that Draisaitl's locked in. Next up, 97, and that's going to make for a pretty awesome decade for the Oilers hockey, and that just means they'll probably be the team to beat more often than not in the West. But hockey's just around the corner. We'll be getting to that. In the meantime, though, enjoy some beautiful weather outside in early September. Get some rest after the weekend if you were down in Regina, and get fired up for the Banjo Bowl coming up on Saturday. But a big show tomorrow, getting ready for NFL kickoff, the latest from the CFL. And don't forget, new CFL 110 tomorrow with myself and Jeff Hamilton as well. Thanks to all the sponsors that make this show happen every day. Thanks to all of you in the chat, everyone listening on podcast. We'll see you tomorrow live, 1 p.m. right here on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube